What's going on, guys, and welcome back to Top 5 Scary Videos. The SCP Foundation, of course, stands for Secure, Contain, and Protect. Now, these 3 steps are a little harder than they sound. While a lot of SCPs are fun and, dare I say, cute, I mean, like SCP-999, for example. I mean, look at this thing. Do you know what this one does? It tickles you, and if you say stop, it sometimes doesn't stop. That's the scariest thing about this guy. They say he has the same texture as peanut butter, and he loves giving hugs. That's amazing. Like, some of these SCPs are awesome, but some SCPs are honestly just way too big, bad, and scary to mention. Escaping them is really not a possibility. So, here to break down our top 5 SCP monsters that you can't escape, I'm Taylor McWatters, and make sure you stick around for the bloopers, because I feel like today we're gonna get a few. I don't know, just have an idea. And kicking off the list at number 5, we have SCP-096, or also known as the Shy Guy. He's a shy boy, I guess, little shy. Kidding, he's actually terrifying. He's a terrifying boy in that case. SCP-096 is a humanoid creature who is actually really chill. He's super calm, cool, and collect, that is, until you look at his face. So if you want to have a chat with the Shy Guy, you might have to do it over text message. Just don't FaceTime. For the love of God, do not click FaceTime. Because once you look at his face, it enters a stage of emotional distress. It will cover up its face and start losing it. I mean, it screams and it cries. It pretty much has a mental breakdown. And then it starts chasing whoever looked at its face. And after that, well, there isn't exactly an after in this case, if you get what I'm saying. You will then get chased down until it kills you. And then only after that, it will go back to its neutral state. So in this neutral passive state, SCP-096 will passively follow you. So if you're just texting, kind of doing your own thing, he'll kind of wander behind you, maybe poke in, see who you're talking to. Oh, it's that X again? Not a good idea, I don't know. He's just there, right? Like, have you seen Bird Box? Take some notes from Bird Box. So like I mentioned, this thing is really fast. And if you think you can run through a few doors, maybe catch a couple elevators, and Bob's your uncle, you're horribly, wildly mistaken. It will rip through whatever barrier is in front of it. I mean, this thing can rip through elevators. What do you think it's gonna do with your spinal cord? I don't know. And if you want to find this thing and play peekaboo, there are a few locations at the heavy containment zone where you would be able to find the Shy Guy. Locations like Gas Catwalk, 3-way Gas Catwalk, the Graded Hallway, and the all-metal corridor, I believe. It has also appeared in the small server room, but that's because an unfortunate guard looked at its face. And that guard was, of course, brutally killed. And number 4, SCP-173. It rhymes. Isn't that neat? Love when that happens. Next up on our list is the Euclid class SCP-173, and it's personally one of my favorites. Now, normally you want to avoid most of these monsters, right? Make as little contact with it as possible, whether that's physical contact or in some cases, eye contact. Well, when it comes to SCP-173, in order to get near it, you need at least 3 people with you. In order for SCP-173 to not kill you, somebody has to maintain direct eye contact with it. And wouldn't it suck if you worked with somebody who went out for a smoke break? They're like, hey, you got this, right? You're like, yeah, for sure, take your time. So what exactly happens if you break this eye contact? Well, SCP-173 will then snap your neck at the base of your skull or strangle you, which I guess would take a long time with my neck, eh guys? I see your comments talking about my noodle neck. I see we all. I'm gonna respond to all of them. Top 5 people that shouldn't be commenting about my neck anymore. Looking right at you, that's right. I'd personally go for the neck snap, way faster, I don't know. Its origins are still unknown, but it's made up of concrete and rebar with a Krylon spray paint thrown into the mix. And the best part of this one, well, at least 2 people have to be staring at it, because even if you blink, that counts as breaking eye contact, even for that tiny amount of time. Maybe you could wink though, you're just like, I don't know, that's how some dogs blink. It stresses me out. But that's so stressful. Better hope that if you wear contacts, they don't get dry at work, or else you're screwed. And of course, SCP-173 must be locked up at all times. Even after entering the container, you must lock the doors behind you. The only time you would go in is bi-weekly, and that's just to clean up the holding cell, of course. There's this reddish-brown substance on the floor, and apparently it's a fun combination of blood and feces, which sounds perfectly splendid. The sounds that SCP-173 make are reported to sound like scraping stone, which is fun. Even when nobody is inside, this is supposedly a normal thing. And if anybody walks by and they don't hear that, it means we got a problem. And you must report it to the acting HMCL supervisor on duty. Hashtag duty. And blood. Gross. Number 3, SCP-682. This one's pretty fun. So SCP-682 is described as a large reptilian monster. Its origin, of course, remains unknown, as most of these are, but this creature is very smart. And at one point, this creature was engaging in a complex conversation with SCP-079, which was also a Euclid class in the form of a microcomputer. So if it can communicate by those means, it's got to be pretty street smart at the same time. Few things to know about SCP-682, it hates all life, ever. You, me, a tree? No siree. So what makes this creature so threatening? Why is it a Keter class? Well, it can move at extremely high speeds, its reflexes are just unreal, and its physical body also changes in size and shape. So this thing will eat a bunch of objects and then grow in size. Or maybe you can just shed a couple pounds of material and shrink down to a small boy. If you want to ask this thing a few questions for some reason, that's a big no-no. Nobody is to attempt communication with it at all. Ever. Period. End of story. Anybody who tries to communicate at all with it will be removed and restrained by force. Imagine that. Imagine the guard just standing there like, bless you. Ah, damn, sorry, I know. Reflexes, sorry. So how does one contain SCP-682? Well, you gotta get a 5 by 5 by 5 meter chamber with a 25 centimeter acid resistant steel plate lining on the inside. The chamber itself should ideally be filled with hydrochloric acid, so much so that SCP-682 is fully submerged in it. It's kind of like a hot tub, but I don't know. If it moves or speaks or does anything at all for that matter, you gotta handle it. You gotta handle it fast and forcefully, because this reptile from hell doesn't play around. Number 2, SCP-409. Now, with Superman's kryptonite being, well, kryptonite, you have to wonder if there's any type of crystal or rock that can do that kind of damage to humans. Well, fun fact, there is, and it's SCP number 409. Known as the contagious crystal, this Keter class crystal stands at 1.5 meters tall and will crystallize any object that comes into contact with it. So it takes about 3 hours to fully convert you into crystals, inside and out. And I thought growing pains were bad. Eek. Now this one is terrifying because it looks harmless. I mean, obviously. In fact, it looks like a large quartz crystal, so it's inviting more than anything. I love rocks. I actually had a rock collection growing up. Probably shouldn't have said that out loud, but it's too late. The only way to carry SCP-409 is by using a granite case. Now, you know we all have those granite cases lying around, you know? You got one in your garage? Cool, use that one. Granite is the only thing immune to this effect, and to this day we're not sure why. This is terrifying because you don't see anything scary, there's no warning. Whereas other SCPs, like the ones that I just mentioned, you kind of have an idea of what you're getting into just by looking at it. Like if there's a lizard in acid, you're like, oh, it's probably bad news. If this SCP was sitting on your granite desk at work, I'm sure you would lose about 8 co-workers within the first week. Cindy walks by, she's like, oh, it's nice, that's for candles, and then just, she's dead, that's it. So what does this even feel like? Well, let me tell you, it's not pleasant. It feels a lot like frostbite. And once your entire body is crystallized, it will then start to make creaky noises. And then, boom, you explode into 1,000 fragments. With force, too. You don't just like kind of crumble and collapse. You go, bah, and you explode. Probably taking out some eyes in the meantime. There's no getting out of that one. So once you touch it, you got a few hours to say your goodbyes. And not even nukes are gonna stop this one. And finally, we saved my favorite for last, number 1, SCP-049. SCP-049 is referred commonly to the Plague Doctor. And this one hits close to home because I played an evil Plague Doctor at a theme park for an entire month for Halloween a couple years back. That's me. Yep, you can probably tell by the stressed out shoulders and the sick pose. That's how I stood at work all the time. I was like, always about to sneeze. My shoulders hiked up. I love Plague Doctors. I think they're just the creepiest thing already, like just by how they look. Haunting of Bly Manor, one of the background ghosts right off the bat is a Plague Doctor, and I got so excited to see him in the background of all these scenes. And if you love that show and want to know more about these hidden ghosts, Lindsay Ivan did a bang up job with those, so check her out on our Most Amazing Top 10 channel and Top 10 Hidden Ghosts that you missed in the Haunting of Bly Manor. SCP-049 is a bit sicker than your average. This Euclid class SCP is a humanoid entity identity that of course resembles that of a plague doctor. It was discovered in the town of Montauban, which is located in southern France, during a raid. They actually found a few other SCPs called SCP-0492s, which I'll get into a little later on. So let's talk about the design. These aren't clothes per se. These garments have actually grown out of SCP-49's body. That's quite the beak it's got there, wow. So the best part of this SCP is that just by one touch, it can kill you. And then after that, it roasts you and talks about how you did little to kill the pestilence. And yes, when I worked at this theme park, I was able to talk to guests, and yes, I had an absolute amazing time saying that to everybody. So after its touch of death, it will use whatever it has in its medical bag to bring you back. Only you come back as a zombie type humanoid. Yeah, those are the SCP-49-2s that I mentioned earlier. So after this point, it can control you. You have basic response and motor functions, but ultimately this plague doctor decides what your day entails. Well, there you have it, guys. Which SCP monster did we miss? Let us know in the comments down below so we can add them to a sassy little part 2. There's quite a few of these things, so I have a feeling we can do a lot of these lists, and they're always a good time. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you're part of the spooky cool club we got going on over here. And if you're already subscribed, go ahead and turn on those notifications so when we do our live premieres, you can hop in the chat with us and we can have a good time and gossip. I'm Taylor McWatters, you're you, and keep staying you. You're great. See you next time. Yeah, there's a lot to pick from. I was like, that one's funny, that one's funny. Let's do it. We get a little wet my lips.
There you go.
There you go. Okay. Oh, I did, everyone in the comments are like, I never noticed your neck until now, and now I can't. And like, yo, legit. But it's like, now I can't stop looking at your neck. And I'm like, ugh.
You can do anything, man. It's just your neck.
It's so funny. I'm like, awesome. And then you fix the camera, and I'm like, there it is. I'm so, yeah, Wednesday. Hey, welcome to Wednesday. Or it's terrifying. I kept saying he. I can't say he. I'll do that again without saying he. In order for SCP, so many numbers. In order for SCP, oh my god. So silly. I'm gonna, like, literally like an ultimate cut of like me jumping in back to the frame. And I'm like, with my tongue out, all like frazzled and And finally, we saved my favorite for last, and it's getting cut off, so I'm not talking.
That's why it's a favorite. I don't know what he did, but
yeah.
His first day back, he had like 5 in a row. Like he kept coming back. He's nope. It's funny.
Damn.
Yeah. Happens a lot.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure these things aren't easy to maneuver.
Yeah.
The reflections and all that. I'm like, I don't even know what I'm reading right now. Like, how is there a camera in here? That makes no sense. So after its touch of death, it will use whatever it's in its magical, Jesus,